Supreme Knight Patrick Kelly, this is a major announcement that you have related to the artwork of alleged abuser Marko Rupnik. Please tell us what you have to say.
Yes, thank you, Montse, for this time to talk with you. It is a major announcement, and our decision process really came down to multiple factors, but the number one factor was compassion for victims, for what these victims have experienced. And so we needed to prioritize victims over anything, any material thing. So that was our primary consideration. Also, the mission of the Knights of Columbus is a mission to protect the family, particularly women and children and the vulnerable. So that was also a crucial factor for us when we looked at this. But the mission of the John Paul II Shrine too was also really important, right? It's a place of evangelization. It's a place where people come for healing and reconciliation and to be close to God. So what we saw was the presence of these mosaics was a stumbling block to that, right? It was not lifting people's hearts. So we had to take the action that we're taking. And we had a long process, a consultative process that was very careful and deliberate. So we talked to victims and we got their opinions. We talked to art historians. We talked to moral theologians. And they all kept on coming back to one principle, and that is to prioritize the experience of victims in this.
Well, let's take a step back. You described a consultative process. You describe the decision that you had to come to. What specifically is the decision that the Knights of Columbus have made related to this artwork and the different places where it's present today? So
we have taken the decision to cover in fabric the art of Father Rupnik, okay, until such time as the Vatican concludes their investigation into the alleged abuse of Father Rupnik. And at that point in time, we'll make another decision which could entail actually permanently covering the art in plaster.
This is significant. There are many places that have discussed the idea of having to deal with eventually the artwork of alleged abuser Father Rupnik, but at the same time, they have not actually moved in a very specific way, the way that you have now. What did this process look like for you in discerning this decision today?
It was a process that we knew we had to be very deliberative. We knew we couldn't react emotionally to this because the shrine, the John Paul II National Shrine, is a major facility. It's a major national shrine. So we knew we had to be very careful with what we did. We had to talk to victims and others, which we did. And also, the decision that we came to was a decision for this shrine in the United States. And that's an important point because the United States has been particularly, I would say, rocked by sexual abuse. So we needed to decide what was right for the John Paul II Shrine in the United States, and the context of that really mattered.
Now, these allegations against Rupnik, they came to light in 2022. When did your process to consider the fitness of this artwork begin? What you explained what it entailed, but what was the timing related to it?
So as soon as the allegations were made, what we did at the Knights of Columbus and at the John Paul II Shrine is we removed Rupnik art from all of our digital platforms, the website, everything we have digitally, and we removed his art from all of our catechetical materials, our print materials. So that was the first thing we did. And then late last year, when the Vatican said that they were opening up an investigation into these alleged abuses, then we decided we needed to take a serious look at the mosaics themselves.
Why was this process never revealed? It seems the process was very confidential. You've been asked multiple times by members of the Knights of Columbus, some here locally in Washington, D.C., and about the Catholic press about this artwork. Why keep it secret?
Yeah, well, we said at the time when we were asked, we said that we are carefully considering the best course of action. So we said that, but we needed to have a confidential process, primarily because we were talking to victims and we needed candor and openness from these victims to speak freely from their heart. And that only happens, particularly with victims, in an atmosphere of confidentiality where we build trust. So that's why, the process for us was confidential, and that's why we were very careful what we said for all these months.
So then why now? You've got the Bishop of Lourdes, who has decided that he's undergoing his own process and has a very personal opinion about what to do with the artwork. Cardinal O'Malley came out on June 28th. You had the fallout of some very difficultly worded responses from the head of the communications dicastery in Atlanta a couple of weeks back. Why now?
Well, I have tremendous respect for Cardinal O'Malley and what he did and what he said. I would say that wasn't a catalyst for us, but the Lourdes decision, what the Bishop of Lourdes did was very important for us. When they set a time frame on their decision, we thought that we needed to also set a time frame for our decision. So that really moved us forward. And I would say in my own mind, personally, I knew June or July was going to be decision time here. So that is a bit of how we approach the timing of it.
The Vatican and Vatican leadership have been accused of not caring enough about the victims, especially in this situation. Was their suffering a motivator for you?
Their suffering was the primary motivator for us, right? When we talked to victims, what we learned was they want to be heard and they want to be seen, right? So that was our primary motivation. And I would say I'm tremendously thankful for these victims, for their openness to talk to us and the courage that they had to do this. And that really, it was the victims and their feelings and their testimonies that they gave to us, which was the primary consideration that we had.
Is there anything that you can share about that?
Well, for us, I mean, the victims, what they feel is like I said, they want to be heard and they want to be seen. Their concern was the presence of the mosaics presents a chance for harming them further, for a kind of a re-traumatization of them. And so that's the consistent thing that we heard over and over, and we really took that very seriously.
Your fraternal order is the largest in the world. There's nothing like it, and your particular role as Supreme Knight, you sit at a seat of leadership that a lot of people look to. Are you expecting that others will follow suit in this decision that you've made?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, our decision was a decision we made for the Knights of Columbus and the John Paul II Shrine in the unique context of the United States, right? And the United States has been rocked with sexual abuse. I can't say our decision applies to other shrines, other churches, but I would say, and I would hope that perhaps other shrines and other locations can get guidance and maybe assistance from the process that we went through. And I would say, the message I would say to them is that whatever they decide, I would say do two things: have wide consultations and talk to victims and learn from victims, because they can bring clarity to an often confusing environment. As you know, Montse, there's a lot of noise out there with regard to this, but if you really get down to it, it is about furthering the mission of the location and the mission of the church.
Your plan to cover the artwork for now is both vague and concrete, in that you're going to use fabric to cover the mosaics and then eventually maybe consider covering them in plaster. And you mentioned that you're deferring to the Vatican's decision on Rupnik's sexual abuse cases. Was the cost of this and the idea of investing financial resources that you use for charity in covering up the art a significant factor in your considerations or deliberations about how to move forward?
There obviously is a cost involved here, but when we looked at this, we really decided, we needed to do the right thing above all else, and the cost was secondary. So while it was a factor, we had other factors that weighed more heavily than the cost.
What might you replace it with? Have you considered that at all?
Yeah, we don't know if we get to that point where we cover it permanently. We would engage in a very thoughtful process of discernment on what we would cover it with. But obviously, it would have to be art that would lift the heart to God, but also be in keeping with the legacy of John Paul II, and because that's really the mission of the John Paul II Shrine.
How does having the artwork there contradict the mission of the shrine?
Well, I think as I said, I think if the artwork is a block, if it's a block for people, even some people lifting up their hearts to God, if it conjures up these notions, that a shrine shouldn't do that. A shrine needs to be a place of healing, of reconciliation, of pilgrimage. So to the extent that art becomes a stumbling block, we needed to really take a look at that. And that motivated the decision that we took.
There are some American Catholics who will learn about the scandal of Father Marko Rupnik from this decision today. And they might consider this another heartbreaking story, another stumbling block for the church that would pull them away in one way or another reason to walk away. What words do you have for those Catholics and for those considering the faith who will learn about this too?
I would say that those feelings are very understandable. Every Catholic has really been touched by this scandal that we've experienced in the church. So it's very understandable. I have been touched by this, right? It's a very difficult thing for all of us, for all Catholics. But I would say what the Knights are doing today and the decision we're taking is a sign of hope, right? It's a sign of hope. And so my message would be, don't let despair have the final word, right? There is hope. Your voice, those who are despairing, your voice matters, right? Your feelings matter, and Jesus is in his church, and he is there to bring healing and reconciliation. So I would say to those people, it's understandable, but pray to the Holy Spirit for guidance, pray for wisdom, which is something that I've done throughout this whole decision-making process, to pray for wisdom. But the Lord will be there for those who are close to despair.
You've talked about fatherhood a lot, especially in your role as the Supreme Knight, as a father. How did this decision affect you?
Well, I think for every Catholic father, when you confront the reality of sexual abuse, it's a horrific thing. And for me as a father, I wanted to make the right decision for the future, and I want to protect my children and protect their innocence for as long as I can. And so I think the church is vigilant about this now more so than ever, and it did weigh on me, because the Knights of Columbus is a family organization, and it weighed on me personally.
Well, I'm grateful for your candor and for your time today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Montse.